Welcome.
Thank you.
The group that we are, at the 5:30 group, those who have signed up, we have about 20 or so individuals. Clearly, all of them are not here yet, but because you are here, we're not going to delay you. We said that the session starts at 5:30, and we want to go ahead and get you moved and start the tour on time so that we can finish in a timely manner, and then, of course, we'll have the next group at 6:30. What you will see today, and thank you again for your interest in what's going on here at the Government Center and the condition of this building. You will be touring with our Inspections and Codes Director, John Hutchison, and then of course you have our Facilities Maintenance Manager, Johnny Hart, and his assistants. And so they will be the ones to tour you around along with the Sheriff's Office. They're going to show you their portion of that in terms of security and all of that. You will see the basement today. You will see the parking garage, and they're going to show you some piping, some of that you have been hearing about in the news, the corroding pipes and all of that. And what you see out in the garage is typical of what's going to be in the building. And so we just didn't want to take the towel off of each of the offices. It's better to show you in the garage because it's already exposed. So you will see that, and then of course you will go to a couple of departments that have real issues with crowding and inefficiencies because of the crowding and things such as that. And so you will see that in 2 of the offices of elected officials, and then you will go to the 4th floor, 6th floor, and look at some how we are able to get to, or lack thereof, of some piping in this building, the way this building is designed. And then the last thing you will see is on the 4th floor, which will be the security concerns from the Sheriff's Office, and that will end the tour, okay? You will be able to answer questions along the way as you see things, think of things, or any of that. Please feel free to answer any questions. And so with that, John or Johnny, anything you want to say?
No. We'll, like I said, we'll just start from here. We'll take the stairs to the basement. We'll look at things in the parking garage, and we'll get on the elevator so you can kind of get all different aspects and different viewpoints, and also down the stairs. And we can talk. If you have questions, just let me know as we're walking, and we'll try to keep you informed as best possible.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
I just want to add, because safety and security is what falls into us, and when we're taking these stairs, just be careful on the stairs. And I know that's something that I want to stress, because I've had deputies that are sure-footed fall down the stairs because they're narrow. Mm-hmm. So it's more of a safety concern I'm letting you know about. Be safe on these stairs because they are narrow, and there is a tendency to slip down them if you travel, if you're not paying attention and you're used to walking on other stairs. So just safety concern, please be careful on these stairs.
Okay. Also, we want to thank our city manager, Isaiah Hughley, for being here. Isaiah, is there a word?
No. Hello.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, with that.
And I will
yes.
say that John Hutchison
Yes, sir.
is a certified building official. Explain to them what that means and in regards to, they're all over the country.
Correct. That's a certification through the International Code Council, who is the leading building industry inspection services for the country. So having that certification, like I said, when we start to look at these things, some of them kind of jump out at you because you're like, buildings these days, a lot of these standards you wouldn't think of. And like I said, we'll mention to you, some of them you will notice as well, and the others you'll be like, I didn't think about it that way. So we'll be able to point those things out also as we're walking. You know, this building has been 47, 48 years old. So some of it is, you know, just that's the way it is. But current building standards, there's a lot of deficiencies that, you know, it's not just space requirements. It'd be just things that would affect the flow of the building, space, all kinds of things.
I just wanted you to know that that's the highest license that one can get. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
In the country, and he's an architect, so he knows his stuff. And I just want you to know he is a millennial, but he's certified, he's qualified, and we're lucky to have him. So I want you to know that.
Okay. All right, well, with that, we'll go ahead and get started, and what's not on the list, John, is restrooms. Let's just.
We can, like, it just
show
depends
them.
on what floor we're on. We can,
Just
if
show
we've
them
got time or we're
They
stopping
can see
between
that.
one, yeah, we'll be able to show that.
Okay.
The only two floors that have sprinkler protection is currently this ground floor and the basement. That's it. The other 10 floors and the parking garage. That is it. Everything else does not have any type of sprinkler. We have our fire extinguishers on that side and that side, and for your to put out a fire, that's going to be the way to get to them.
The building was never designed for sprinklers on upper floors?
Well, like I said,
It's not working.
from what we were told is that it was a cost issue at that point when they were doing the last final approval to get all the sprinkler systems done, and it was one of the things that was not thought through.
To answer your question, there's never been a sprinkler system on any of the floors, and so I want to make sure
Correct.
they understand.
That's correct.
that it's not that we've
You'll
not-
see something that kind of looks like sprinklers, but they're called heat sensors. So therefore, if they go off, they would signal an alarm system, which is a whole nother ball of wax that is not operable. But it would. There's no. That's what they look like sprinklers, but they're not. So, like I said, when the front lobby area was done, I believe 2007, 2008, that's when some of the ADA things were added with the elevator lift and the entrances here into the jury area. So there was some ADA issues, and we'll deal with those as we walk to show you kind of limitations we have on that.
American Disabilities Act.
That's correct. All right. Do we have everybody? Anybody? Okay. I know, I'm gonna try to be loud, yeah, just knowing what we're dealing with. All right, I don't know if you've ever noticed that trailer that's sitting out here, that is our current backup generator. The old one is right here. The system has just served its life. Right now we have a transfer switch here, and you see these giant cords that run here. Like I said, with Lieutenant Hicks, with that being kind of outside of our building envelope, that is a security concern. So if we ever had a power outage, and if somebody wanted to, something could happen to the building, they could pull our backup generator, and we've actually had that issue. When we tried to flip it over to test it, we found out that there was wires out there loose. So that is a main concern that we deal with here. Also, while we're here, the sprinkler system here, that is the system there. Now, technically by code now, we would need to have a backflow preventer on that fire system, which we currently do not have. So that would be a concern as well. And obviously this is only for those two floors. So obviously you can imagine the size of piping that we would need if it was to do all 12 floors and the wings. And you currently see that we're underground. Also, you can see the concrete construction here. So even logistically trying to get this generator out of here, you see that door, that's the only way out of here, correct? I think there's another side door, but this is it. So therefore, any of this bigger machinery, when it breaks down, they have to repair it in place. There's no way to take it out, get it on a truck, get it shipped somewhere. Yes, sir.
What's the cost to the city of leasing that Cummins generator every month?
What is that, John?
$1,000.
Yeah, we actually had to buy it because as we started to look at this and research it, we found out we couldn't move it. And so we ended up just working with that company, agreeing to a fee. I'm not 100% sure of that number, but we purchased it and it is ours now. But it was getting costly where we had to choose which one to do.
So in the design of the building, putting the generator in the basement was a mistake because you can't remove it.
That is correct. We had two issues. We have half of our mechanical systems are here, and the boiler system is up on the penthouse. So imagine with the boiler issues that we've been dealing with, you can't physically get up to the 12th story. The elevator doesn't go all the way up there.
Right.
So once again, the logistic area of trying to get that large equipment down an elevator is just not going to work. So literally the only way they would have to get it in is the way they brought it in is by crane or by helicopter or whatever. I mean, something very, very expensive. So like I said, it's unfortunately the greatness of having a concrete structure is that you don't have to worry about the concrete, but you also put yourself in a box, and therefore you physically can't get things out of it now that you put in it.
So
All right.
there's no way of constructing any kind of a ramp with doors big enough to handle any of this stuff?
I'll show you what we did that did not help us in that regard. There used to be, was it this side that had where the chillers are down here? They were built on top of the access doors to get it out of here. Once again, like I said, so
Now, the access you're speaking of belongs to Georgia Power.
correct.
Right.
So
Behind that wall is a room that belongs to Georgia Power, where all the transformers and all of them.
That's correct.
So the only access from here up is through a 3-foot door, through around transformers, and then you have to go up through a hole in the floor, a hole in the ground.
So
So, to answer your question in simple terms, no ma'am, there's no way, because that's below the dirt.
that's right.
There's no way to cut a hole. When we was replacing this, we looked at all of those options. And there's just no way to cut a hole big enough to move it, because there's too much electricity coming in down there to take a chance on moving it through there. And this is too far underground to dig it out, to try to get any way to get any of this out. So he's right. Any of this that goes out, we repair it in place.
Go ahead.
And I ask everybody in here, we've opened up the government center to this, and of course, mine is safety and security, but we have discussed a weak point on the security side of it, as in not being able to, our backup generators, if they're messed with and we lose. That's something I don't necessarily want all of the public to be broadcast about, saying, hey, that's how we take down the government center. So I ask that that part not really be broadcast on the media, or, because if we give the bad guys, if we give the terrorists a way to take us out, then we kind of just show them our hands, and I don't want to show up Monday and have this whole place. You see what I'm saying? Thank y'all.
Realize that anybody can look at that and may come to the conclusion that that's the way to take it out.
I do understand that, but I just don't want to handle the playbook.
All right. We can go out to the parking garage now to look at some of the pipe issues.
Even the hole through the floor, which
Yeah, you can see how it was ceiling mounted at first, and now it is rebar and all that is giving way. And if you would have been out here yesterday when the rain was running, I mean, it was a pool right here because all that water is just infiltrating through the parking garage.
What's the issue with what we're looking at up here?
Well, that used to be a part of the old parking garage system that was in place. It used to have arms and things like that. And it was ceiling mounted, but through corrosion or whatever issue, it's come loose. And what happened is like literally yesterday there was water pouring out of that hole because I guess the corrosion of water has made its way through, and it was leaking yesterday, and there was water all out here.
Yes, sir.
What, if any, air handling system do you have in the parking garage?
We have 6 fans on each level, except for the executive level, that move air through the parking garage.
That's what you hear back over here in the corner. A couple months back, I had sent the letter letting council know about the concerns we had about the hot water. This is the hot water heating system, so it's a boiler system. It's just the hot water that provides heat to the building. The concern is when it's up under here, it's under this insulation, we don't know the condition of the pipes. And so, what wing was it, Johnny? It was the east wing. We had that pipe failure where it just totally corroded and burst. And so we had hot water, everything kind of shooting out. And if you've noticed, between here and wherever we are, there are no cutoff valves. So therefore, if it breaks here, we're almost having to run all the way back into the building to find any type of cutoff to isolate the issue. It would just be hot water spewing out. So we have somewhere between 200 and 300 boxes like this all over the building. So therefore, that was the concern, is that at any place, either coming in or going back out, you can see this condensation. If it's happening up under that insulation, it's just sitting there and rusting that pipe out all the time. So that was the concern there. So we wanted to show you this one. This is probably one of the worst we've got. The rest of them aren't as bad. We've done investigations to kind of isolate the worst of the worst. We scheduled to have a mechanical contractor come in, start next month to start working on this. And luckily we're doing it now where it's the summertime, so we've cut the water down, so we're not worried about scalding anybody. and that's a good part of it. And so they can hopefully get it fixed before we have to go back and use it in the wintertime. So, and we can head back. Once again, that's the corrosion. When we get to the points that we need to do cutoffs and things like that, that's the level of corrosion we're dealing with all over the building.
The other problem is those valves are 47, 48 years old.
So they're breaking off.
They may or may not operate, or they may just break off. Had them break off in the past.
Just kind of the condensed space and what they're having to deal with.
Okay.
Yeah, we just want them to stick their head in. We're not going to, y'all tell us where we can't go and we'll.
Okay, all of these are records. All of these.
So this is all Superior Court. This is everybody, isn't it?
No,
Okay, what's in this room?
all of this is like criminal,
Correct.
and all of this in these boxes, this is also
That's correct.
more records. And we have them in each one of these all the way down to the end.
Correct.
Okay, and this is just the records room and the deed room.
That's correct. It's on the other end.
The other.
Yes, ma'am. Also, we'd like to point out, you'll start to see some more of these, which is portable cooling units to maintain the temperatures in the building, because any of our air conditioning systems are coming off those windows, and any of, like I said, depending on if you're on the south side of the building all day, you're burning up. Then you're on the other side of the building, you're freezing. So there's no, and with the whole system being one system, they're not split into zones or anything like that. They just have to set a temperature, and you just kind of have to live with the situation. So you will start to see more and more of these as we go into people's offices, because either they're too hot or too cold, and having another way to be able to regulate the spaces is just not set up. Yes, sir.
Do you know roughly what your annual electricity bill is for this building?
Yeah, maintenance.
Somewhere around $750,000.
And how much do you think you could reduce that with a building of equal square footage but that had modern building systems?
I'd say we could probably anywhere from 25 to 35%.
And probably could be more than that, because the way the system is you have a cooling system and we have a heating system. So therefore, if we had central heat in there, like most people's houses and things like that are now, you could go off and on, and also with zones, so you don't have just one side blowing cold air all day and one side trying to get heat, and then you having to operate cutting one down and cutting one up, and so that it could probably
save as much as $250,000 a year just in electric bills.
Correct.
With the modern building.
Correct. Because you have these running, and then like I said, even offset cost of those, making sure these aren't overloading the electrical systems we got, because we're just plugging them in. And
You go to most people's office and you look under their desk, there's a electric heater.
correct.
So the wintertime, they're freezing.
How does OSHA get involved in, a working condition where you're either freezing or burning up?
Well, OSHA, I wouldn't speak on necessarily occupational hazards, but I don't know if the temperature regulations, like I said, code-wise, as long as it's above 68 degrees, you're okay. So there's, on the code side, property maintenance issues that we would have, we would deal with any other private or public. So
I
that would,
worked in a building like this once, and I did, but it was before OSHA was.
I understand.
Now, where is this vented? Where does that vent go to?
It just, the building's return is above the ceiling. Everything gets pulled back above the ceiling. It goes in by these black stripes.
Correct, the stripes that are around the
It
lights.
actually pulls the return in it that way. So that's just vented above the ceiling and it falls into the building return.
Now, does that handle moisture as well, or is that just an air duct?
No, that machine there, no, it's a portable air conditioner.
Right.
It may or may not put off, some of them put off a little humidity water, but most of them don't. Yeah, not up the exhaust.
Yeah, you have the drip pans are typically, and then they have to
Yeah.
come in and replace those, and kind of make sure those don't fill up, because system will auto shut itself off. So, all right. I guess if y'all want to see the deed room, we can go look.
One quick.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the code for sprinklers came in like late 70s, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Recall last month, the hotel fire in Hawaii, they had no sprinklers because the building was built like 1970.
That's correct.
And this building was built in 72.
That's
The
correct.
second floor up, there's no sprinklers all the way to the top.
No, sir. I'll show you all the floors. When we go to the 4th, we'll go to the 6th, all the floors. You'll look at the ceilings. You might, like I said, you might see something that looks like a sprinkler, but it's just a heat sensor. It's not a sprinkler. And if you've also walked through, you see there's no annunciators, the flashers, or the exit signs to tell you which.
In code to have a sprinkler?
I'm not sure exactly the time that it would have been, but any time after the 70s, I know when any multi-high-rise buildings, when those were coming in New York and bigger cities, they were making requirements for multi-high-rise to have sprinkler systems. So we know we're out of compliance. I'm not quite sure how many years we've been out of compliance, but to know that we have this big a building and we only have 2 floors that are sprinkled is out of code. Yes, sir.
John, I know I was there at the first meeting, and you said something there, and I'd like for you to kind of allude to it, that you said something about any modification made, it's tough for you to do because now you have to bring it up to certain codes. At
Correct.
the time.
So I couldn't just say, hey, let me make the record room up to code, and then everyone else is still out of code. So the compliance issue is if you start to, it's a 50% rule. So anytime I would get over 50% over the cost of construction, I would have to bring the whole building into code compliance. So we can't just choose this little area and get it all code compliant and then ignore the whole rest of the building. So that's why it's kind of, where do you start? We've looked, the cost that we have right now is somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million, and that's just for the alarm system. That's not the sprinkler system, backflow preventers, any of that. It's just for the alarm system. So if there's a fire here, that everyone in the rest of the building knows there's a fire here. We just don't have that capability right now.
One of the things I'd like to point out, I don't know if you did, but keep in mind these are very vital records, and how they protect them just in case we do have a busted pipe or something. If you look over here, you have this blue tarp, and then they go. How many of y'all been to a baseball field where it starts raining and they start running out? Well, that's what this group up here does, is they start pulling the tarps out to tarp everything.
And we put the tarps up here just in case, something burst or whatever, because all of these records, you've got adoptions in here, you've got records.
And do you have those records boxes up on anything, or are they just sitting on the floor?
They're sitting on the floor. We have
So
nowhere to
even
put
if
them.
you put the tarp over the
We
boxes.
have more than one tarp.
I know, but if they're just sitting on the floor and enough water leaks onto the floor, you end up with a bottom layer
Well, if
of
you
wet
notice,
boxes.
those boxes, the boxes at the bottom, right here, those are empty boxes.
Oh, okay.
Those are empty boxes.
So you do have them up on something?
Yes, we have them up on another box, on another box.
Question, those records, are they like backed up on like a microfiche or on a database or something like that? Where I know it's a lot of records, and it's
The
still back.
the majority of them, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, they had a crash. And we're almost up to date as far as getting them all, back in the system. But the majority of them, I'll say 80% of them, they do have a backup.
Okay, so if there were a problem, you do have access to most of the files?
To the majority.
For the
of them.
majority, okay.
All right. We can go to the deed side.
It'll be all the way down
Yes,
to the
ma'am.
end.
By any current standards, these are not ADA compliant. You don't have your turn radiuses, you don't have your grab bars, you don't have your handicap accessible restroom. You don't have it. It's not. And everybody's like, well, just make the restroom bigger. But you have offices that are all around them that would make that a little bit. Not a little bit, a lot harder. You don't have your 5-foot clear turn radius here. So if somebody with a wheelchair were to come in here, they're stuck right here. They can't use these bathrooms. The ones that we did install on the first floor are handicap accessible, but if you're on any other floors, you do not have access. Like I said, you get right here in a wheelchair, you could not get anywhere. The normal things you would require for a ADA bathroom.
Is that all the bathrooms or just the bathrooms?
All the bathrooms,
Wow.
all of them. The only ones that are what we're dealing,
Where our researchers come.
Correct. And looking up deeds and plats and all that stuff, all that information is here. Like I said, I do know that we are working on digitizing a lot of this, so it is available, so that's in the works, but
Could you just give us an example of what is in this room?
just say, you know, if you're looking to access the deeds, you know, if you're looking for, you know, plats, you go to their last name and then you refer over there and you pull the record out of there and it'll have the actual plat from when it was deeded or when the survey did the work.
So this is all property information?
Yes, ma'am. So it's all in here if you search for, you know,
We do have tarps for all of this as well.
just in case. And once again, another portable unit down there. So they're all over the place. All right, we'll go up to the 6th floor. I wouldn't know. I worked in engineering prior, so like I said, I was dealing kind of more out in the field and doing other projects, so I couldn't really speak to that. We're gonna check and see if Judge D'Antonio's here. I was just trying to get y'all all on the elevator to look that way. Is he ready? Okay, we'll go with him. He's gonna take over this part because he's gonna talk about probate court, and then we'll kind of talk about, and we'll talk about our security issues when we come back around the other way. Yes, in a half, and then you have the penthouses at 12.
So this whole thing went up, how much of the rest of Uptown Columbus would burn? Not to be a fearmonger, I'm just saying. I mean, you've indicated that you have no means of effectively controlling a fire.
You need to, if you're above the 4th floor, you need to get out, and actually our policy is a fire, any indication of fire, we are getting out of this building as quickly as possible. That's, I actually remind our staff about that, and that is part of our policy.
Do you have regular fire drills?
We do.
Yeah, Lucian, then they do evacuation drills.
But, well, let me also tell you all a little bit about where you are and who I am. My name is Mark D'Antonio, and I'm the probate judge. Welcome to the probate court. I appreciate y'all coming after hours. How many of you have ever been to the probate court before? How many of you, well, let me ask this a different way. How many of you got married in the state of Georgia? Well, if you got married in the state of Georgia, you've been to the probate court before, because the probate courts, and maybe it was a different county, but the probate courts issue marriage licenses and weapons carry permits. Right here, you're sitting where both marriage and it's people have applied for both at the same time. And I will let you know that it's harder to get a carry permit than a marriage license. Well, think about whether or not that's the way society should be, but that is, anyway, this is where gun permits and marriage licenses are issued. We have 2 folks that work full-time doing this. We issue north of 3,500 carry permits a year and over 2,000 marriage licenses a year. We have a pretty substantial, unlike other probate courts around, we do a lot of weddings for folks and issue a lot of marriage licenses for folks that live in Phoenix City or Russell County or Lee County, Alabama, because after the same-sex marriage ruling by the Supreme Court, a number of those courts have stopped performing weddings. Columbus is a military town, and I think it's very important that we let service members be availed of the opportunity to get married after the Army has ruined their plans. So we're going to continue to do weddings, and that makes us extremely busy. On Fridays, you'll sometimes see people lined up way out the door there and well beyond our capacity. You want to keep moving?
All right, we'll follow you.
Okay, well, come on back here.
Just kind of explain what all this is. They were curious about what records are.
In addition to guns and marriages, I'll wait for y'all to come back around. Well, and y'all let me know if you can't hear me or anything like that. I can talk fairly authoritatively. In addition to guns and marriages, what I thought of probate court was dead people's property. Deceased people's property is a very important part of the probate court, and as part of that, it's very important to me and my staff that we get it right. We make sure that the will is properly executed and those things. And why that's also important to the public is real property passes through wills. So those books right there, and you can pull one down even, those books are recordings of every will probate that we've done. I don't let I'm going to show you where we keep the live wills, but I don't let the general public, without asking permission, have access to the actual original documents. But it's very important for, if you want to purchase a house that was once owned by somebody that's deceased, the title company that's going to guarantee that the house can be yours is going to have to do a title search. Right now, we sometimes have 2 or 3 folks doing title searches at the same time, and they are all crammed around this table. There's a computer access for some of it, and I try to accommodate people as best we can, but and no fights have broken out among the title search folks, but I can understand why it can be frustrating when we have such limited space, and that's all been since sometime in well, we crank through about one of these bookshelves a year. So we are running out of space there too. Welcome. Now we'll be moving on into the vault. And I can cram folks in here.
Oh, it's beautiful.
These are the originals?
These are the originals of a number of things. In fact, actually, this is a very interesting document too.
Confederate soldiers, yes.
Can you move down some more?
I don't know if I think there's probably some more people coming through.
Oops.
I'm just letting you, y'all feel free to cram in wherever you want. You can cram in over here too. Actually, there's some space over there. Can y'all see?
There's room over here, more people can get in.
Yeah, and we can probably squeeze back there some too if you want. Okay, this is where we do keep many of the original documents. This is actually where original marriage licenses are that have become marriage certificates after they're signed. One thing that's interesting about Columbus as opposed to most other southern probate courts that I've ever been to, most of them up until well into the 50s or 60s would separate marriage licenses from whites and coloreds. And that's literally, if you walk into a probate court, even in Harris County, that's how they did it. Columbus never did that. So all of our records are actually combined. The probate court was once called the Court of the Ordinary, and initially the probate court had most of the responsibilities of the county commissions, the welfare department, and the Veterans Administration. And that's why we have these documents here that I am working with folks on preserving, because the probate court was where you got your Confederate War veteran pension. And pensions were issued up until the, well, actually up until the 1960s. So there were a number of veterans that would marry young brides so they could receive pensions. On the other side,
One question, please. These wonderful old books up here. They look very old. Can you tell us about those?
Those are the journal back then, and it's amazing handwriting. If you open up, well, maybe I'm going to just open this, because this is. Look how beautiful folks' handwriting was back then. This was before, like the books I showed you out there, before you could, and actually if you deserted, you ended up in red ink. Sure. Actually missed Pemberton and a number of other famous folks are in this document. Tape is bad for documents. I've been talking with the Columbus State University's archive folks about ways of preserving these. I can't give them to any of them because then they'll send them up to the state of Georgia, and I don't want that. I don't want to lose that kind of control of things that have Columbus history involved. But we're working on, at least Columbus State's going to make a disc of it so that people can review it without damaging the documents. But in this room, perhaps even more significantly than this, is these are all of, well, these are the wills of folks that have passed away. These are the original wills. Then, and Joy, I'm going to just. The other thing we have to store for 6 years, and I'm happy to shred after 6 years, are the gun permits. All of this and all of those are weapons carry licenses and people's criminal background checks. So we're, as you can see, we're literally running out of space for this as well. And again, folks feel strongly about the carry permits. There's been an upturn in them, and I have to keep them for a long time. The original wills, I will never let those go to out of off-site storage or anything like that. One, because they have such historic significance. And there are people that if your great-grandfather's will is in here, you're going to want to see the original. And I don't, quite frankly, trust anyone, and moreover, the statute for probate judges makes me personally responsible for all of them, and I take that very, very seriously. We have the Woodruff wills buried in the deep back there, and a number of other historic wills that are, it's very important. Those are the documents that will not leave anywhere I am if I can do anything about it. I'm always up for looking for technological improvements to do things better. There's reasons why you can't scan gun permits because of security and privacy issues related to that. So this is a challenge, to put it mildly. And you haven't seen my office yet.
Just this whole vault is bricked in.
This whole vault is bricked in. This is, in theory, the safest room for in case of a fire or whatever. This is also our room if in case of an active shooter, or in case of which we do actually take the safety stuff. Trains with cyanide sometimes pass down 9th Street right there. So we do have. Excuse me, Joy. I'm sorry for. We do have a bucket with duct tape to seal this even better, and the bucket could be used for other purposes too if we were in here a long period of time, along with water and.
But also, you're talking about these very wonderful rare documents going back to the Woodruff wills.
Right, and going back.
And even though this is double thickness brick, the temperature isn't the optimum temperature that you would want to conserve those wonderful
That's exactly
pieces.
right.
Now, paper conservation is very important, and it's sometimes a little dicey.
That's you're preaching to the converted. I do on more modern wills, and I might look into scanning everything so that I don't ever have to let so I can keep it dark in here.
Yes.
But as I said, that is a concern. These are some of the needs that the probate court clearly has, and space you can see is part of that too.
And just on functionality, you also notice that because how thick these walls are, we have to bring everything from the ceiling. You see the running for the phone there because of it was a vault. You also see that's one of those heat sensors I was mentioning about. It's not a sprinkler. It's just a heat sensor. Right. So therefore, if it goes off, it's supposed to alarm somewhere else. But
although in reality, this is the one
you wouldn't want a
That's
sprinkler. Correct. So finance is the same way. They don't want a sprinkler in their vaults either.
Right.
So,
but everything else, I'd be fine with.
There are other methods for suppressing fire.
That's correct.
So, this is the sealed record room / break room. So we use this both as, this is the break room where lunch and all those kind of things, and it's also the sealed record room. Something I didn't mention, and is actually maybe even more important than making sure deceased people's property does pass to who it's intended, is looking out for vulnerable people. The probate court is responsible for minor children, which you'll see it says open minor guardianships, including settlements of lawsuits related to children. We're also responsible for adult guardianships. Those are folks that have had traumatic brain injuries or developed dementia or other things like that. Again, these are not public records. Our closed adult guardianships are right here. And the probate court, and what I do probably more than any other probate judge in the state, is involuntary psychiatric commitments. Because West Central Georgia Regional Hospital is here, the Bradley Center is here, we have 2 outpatient providers, New Horizons and American Work. They are here almost every Wednesday. Right over here are the records of the involuntary psychiatric commitments going back to at least 1908, but probably a little bit earlier than that. The really early records prior to a lot of due process and civil rights that were afforded in the 1950s are quite frankly very scary. They could convene a jury to send you off to Milledgeville forever. and you might not even get notice of it. There is more due process to it now, but it is, these are again very important records and not really for anyone's public consumption whatsoever. The thing I like to note is up until 1964 in Georgia, you were a lunatic. And if you look at the book there, they were lunacy records up until then. And I actually do think there is something to lunar tidal effects and folks having psychotic breaks, because we do seem sometimes to have an upturn on people I have to send to the hospital for observation and evaluation around the full moon. But so, like I said, we are crammed in here too. But
All right, who can reel them in? Because we need to get going, because it's already 6:15, 6:20.
my office, and it's the only office where we don't share office. The reason being this person is responsible for all those guardianships and conservatorships. And scattered around here are returns of living people's money and things like that. So this is the one area where I just didn't want the public in. So as a perk for the fiduciary compliance officer / law clerk, they get the hottest office in there. But it has to be conference room / photocopy room / library. And since this is where the public is, it made more sense to allow the public to have access to the biggest office, even though I'm cramming 2 people in there. Now you get to see my chambers. I like the artwork. Well, this side of this office, we'll get everyone in, I guess. This is probably one of the things I do want to emphasize. You're welcome to have a seat, or is anyone else coming in?
Maybe boy, huh?
Yeah, well, this is my chambers.
Elegant.
Actually, this half of the office is my chambers. I just recently decided I'm going to keep that door closed so I could actually try to dictate to this computer here, and that's my office. I even have the Judge D'Antonio thing to prove this is my chambers. Where this desk here is the chief clerk. So Brooke Ballstad, my chief clerk, and I share an office. We did decide that we're the folks that are supposed to have the least direct contact with the public, so it sort of made sense for us to cram ourselves into the smallest office. When Brooke, as you can tell, Brooke had a baby. When Brooke was out on maternity leave, this office, there were papers everywhere. I clearly could use a little more space. In fact, I've cleaned up a little bit, but I clearly could use a little more space. And I think it's safe to say I'm probably the only judge that was willing to say give up having their own office.
How does this affect your function and her function?
It's a good thing we like each other, but also, to be honest with you, if I have something that just has to be done, I'm gonna stay at home and sit at my dining room table, because if I need to not be disturbed, it's even though Brooke and I are, as I said, sort of the ones that are supposed to limit that, I'm gonna get stuff done much more effectively sitting at my dining room table.
Without listening to her phone calls?
Well, and just all the other things, but actually, I've improved some of my productivity by literally just, it used to be that this door was open and then people would just sort of just come on through. But there's an impact there, for sure. So, I mean, so if people do talk to you about, and we're about done with the tour, and we'll take you out, show you the courtroom, and then let you all go. But to talk about a real need, I really think I have a pretty good argument that I need more office space.
Sure.
I don't know what the people are doing. There is actually a safety cabinet hiding there, that way we can tell. Where am I? D'Antonio D. What do I look like back then? Cosgrove. Let's see. There I am. Courtroom. We, in counties in which the population is over 90,000 people, as of to 1998, you have a right to a 12-person jury trial to decide whether or not the gold digger should receive the benefits under the will. So we have to have a jury box for that. But as you can see, you can't even put the plaintiff's table and the respondent's table side by side. We have them turned this way because the involuntary psychiatric commitment respondent sits in that corner there, and before, when we had the tables turned a different way, one of them tried to attack the lawyer that was trying to have them committed. But now they're, this is about as safe as we're going to get. This is also where I perform a lot of weddings, and another use for the jury box is I put all the folks that want to witness the wedding in the jury box or on this side, because I think in theory this is the best background for pictures for the weddings. I think that's pretty much all I got. So when you can go out there, does anyone have any quick questions?
Judge, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
We're getting ready to start another tour here. We got one more step. We'll bring him back up and see you again.
Okay.
As we leave, I just want to let you know this is a judicial facility, and what he handles, although we like to think of courts quite often as the criminal courts, because that's what we see a lot of on TV with murder trials going on or this going on. But really, if you think about it, the civil side of the house is just as dangerous on the security side and for the judge side. Like he discussed, he's committing people that are involuntary commitments that are mentally ill. So we're already dealing with some high-risk stuff going on there. And then tell me a divorce that has gone through court that you know of that has really gone into a court in front of a judge that was civil. We call it civil, but how many divorces? So,
and sometimes with blended families, the will contest is divorce part 2.
Yeah, and so we have to bring them all in here. How many of y'all know someone has passed away and you hear families fighting over stuff? And that's some of the security issues we deal with. And if you look at the size of this courtroom, trying to even gain control of a situation in a courtroom this size and the way it's set up is hard.
He said there's about a half a dozen people downstairs, so hopefully the next one won't go as fast.
We got called 2 weeks ago in reference to family members fighting, and we have people sitting back here that might not be happy with, you see what I'm saying? So as we go out, that's what I want you to think of, is not only how dangerous criminal trials are, where we talk about multiple murders going on, but also how dangerous a civil trial can be when you got 2 people that are divorced or someone getting committed to a mental, institution. But as we walk out, what I really want to point out is we're going to dump out and we have all this going on in here. But as you walk out to the left, that's where our city attorney is. So now we got all this crazy stuff that might be going on in here. But as you follow me out,
yes, the city attorney's office is right in front of our waiting room. There is a well, and I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
Just for you, I want you to understand, our current mechanical chase that runs from the penthouse all the way down is right here. But you also notice there is no way to get to it. So we have the chase that's on the penthouse, it goes all the way down and in the basement. But there's some access ports we will show you that will kind of make that point. So if we were to want to expand the HVAC system or do things like that, we physically would have to tear the building down to get to it. But we'll show you the hatches we have. We're going to go here from the 6th floor down to the 4th, and then we'll show you the hatches on the side and kind of explain that.
So like I said, this is your city attorney's office right here.
That's correct.
It dumps right out
in the probate court.
And y'all will get the opportunity to ride this elevator in a minute.
The one you're standing next to?
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna walk down, once we get on, we'll ride down.
All right, we're gonna go down here. Now, ideally,
Let me see, how far down are we going?
we're going down 2 floors. Okay. This is the 6th, we're going down to the 4th. Yeah. All right. If you notice as you're going down the stair, we get a complaints of the access. The issue here is primarily the door. So imagine if there's a mass evacuation and this door, it's like half open, and you got people trying to get around. Like I said, those are issues dealing with evacuations. If we had a mass evacuation, that would be a major concern. Those are the standpipes he was asking about. But all right, hold on just a second. Let me see. I got one more. I'm sorry, guys.
Be careful.
Hey, if y'all can stop, Dave, right here. All right.
What is this, pipes?
Remember I mentioned to y'all that mechanical chase that is available? This is our access to that mechanical chase.
Mechanical chase.
This is where all the domestic hot water pipes, this is where all the vents, before they split and go to the building, this is where they are. Yes. So, like I said, that's what makes any kind of improvements. You can see it's concrete encased all the way in. And this is everything from the 12th floor all the way down. So we don't have, exactly. And so if we needed to come in and replace pipes on whatever floors, you could just imagine the nightmares of trying to get to them because A, you'd have to fight past these pipes. Two, there's no type of, maintenance egress talked about in here at all. So this is one of the biggest issues for everybody that wants to say, well, let's retrofit this building, let's try to do this. Physically, mechanically, the guts of the building, trying to get to them to make them work. Like I said, this is stories down. There's no supports, there's just supports for the pipes. There's no way for us to get to.
Platforms in between.
No, that's correct, nothing. If you stuck your head in, you look straight down. There's nothing there. And the other access is at the very top where we're at the penthouse where the boiler room runs. That's it.
Are you talking about access to what again?
Anything. You got your domestic water, you got your storm, your sewer, all of that, all your pipes, HVAC, any of these wraps. You can't. This is how you would get to them. And you can feel the draft once you kind of stick your head in here, but you can stick in and look right down, and that's it.
A few years ago, we had a leak in one of those pipes. We literally had to bring somebody in, and they rappelled from the 12th floor down and found the leak. There's no access into that.
I'm just letting you know, I have to leave, so is it okay if I just go down the fourth?
Let the lieutenant know, because I don't want them to flip out and say, hey, people leave. Because he's supposed to be down here to meet me, as a matter of fact.
Is there a heliport on the roof?
There it is.
This is the fourth floor. This is, of course, where the sheriff's office is. What we're going to really point out right now is where we hold the inmates prior to court. Like we've said before, we have normally 7 to 9 active courts going on at the same time during a regular week. And so with those active courts, a lot of them are your criminal courts that are going on, your superior courts, your state courts, your municipal courts. So with that being said, any arrest that's been made and they take to the county jail, we have to transport those inmates over to this facility, and then we have to hold them in jail cells back there. So I'm going to show you those jail cells, show you what we're up against, and then I'm going to take you down how we transport the inmates up and down, along with how the judges, and they use the same elevator. But I'll give you the opportunity to ride in what our elevators we use for transporting inmates on. So if y'all follow me. All right, so like I said, we actively anywhere from 7 to 11 courts running at the same time, okay? This is where we house all of our inmates, and sometimes we have anywhere from 60 to 90 inmates that we have to transport up here. And if you've watched the news at all, you hear of nobody wants to kill one another. Now it's multiple defendants in a murder. They all want to get together and commit this crime. So now we have a lot of multiple defendant trials going on. And then with that, we have keep separates, all right? So that means they all three might be part of the same, but they might be telling on each other, they're giving information, so we can't house them together, of course, for obvious reasons. But if you look, on a good day, this is our female side, so we'll walk through here and look at what we have. This is where we bring our females majority of the time, or if we have keep separates. Now, if we have females and a couple keep separates, you realize how much of a challenge that can be. All right. At the same time, if you look, we don't have cameras back here. We do have an officer that is staged pretty close by that could listen to, just in case any medical emergency arises, anything like that, that monitors everybody back here. But like I said, if I have a group of females, a couple keep separates, I don't have any room for anybody. This is what I have.
Having 60 to 90 people in this one room at one time?
Between this room and the room over there.
Okay.
When
So-
do I keep separate?
Keep separate as if you and I don't get along and we can't be put in the same cell together because we might have committed the crime together, but now I'm telling on you. Or you might be a family member of somebody that I hurt, stole from, murdered. So you and I can't be in the same cell because you might do something to me or I might do something to you. And it's still our responsibility to make sure the health and welfare of every individual that visits our jail and goes through this court system is safe and secure and they're able to their rights. So I might not be able to put 2 individuals in a cell together, 3 individuals cell, 4 individuals to cell, just like that.
Where do you put them if you run into that scenario?
If we run into that scenario, sometimes we keep them off-site and have to move them that way, which of course takes manpower. When you start talking about the manpower it takes to hold people at the jail and move all at the same time. And if anybody has spent some time up here and realize especially when we get into jury deliberations, where the jury has to question, so we have to move the inmates out of the courtroom, move them down to holding, and it could take anywhere from 5 minutes to 2 hours for these jurors to answer their questions, get their questions answered, go back, talk about it, and then if they have another question, they come back up, so we have to move the inmates back over here, back up, and so it's just a constant juggling act and a manpower issue. So
ideally, you need more rooms and much larger space.
ideally, yes. Ideally, we need more holding facilities for what the courts now have become. If you think about it, these were built back when our court flow wasn't 7 to 11 courts functioning at one day, all of that. So
I was playing, but you're literally in Mayberry right now.
look at it.
Kind of.
Yeah. So if you want to see what our male holding facility looks like, it's a little bit bigger, but not much.
I opened it and turned it on. I didn't have it.
No, thank you. So if y'all go ahead and step on in. There are days that we come back here and this place you're lucky if you have a seat. Sometimes they're standing up here. This place is packed full and they're waiting for their name to get called. And this is where we hold them when they go up to all of the courts.
We've had a lot of angry men then.
Oh, it all depends. We say a lot of angry men, but sometimes this is their day for justice, their day to be able to. So you have a lot of hopeful people sitting in here, but at times it does get angry. And if you think about packing people in here, people are frustrated, angry, ready to go. Or after they get handed down a verdict, and we have to bring them down here and get put in. So it's very volatile in here at all times.
You have fights in here, Lieutenant?
There have been fights in here. I don't want to say it's a daily occurrence. We do our best to keep the separates that we have. And like I said, we have an officer that sits out there that kind of, his ears are tuned for everything going on. Loud voices, if there's, you know when something isn't right, just like your children. You knew the cry, you knew the tone of their voice. And that's what that officer's sole job is, to sit back and listen for any ruckus. We've had medical emergencies out back here, where we have to deal with medical emergencies. Obviously, not all of our inmates are young, healthy males. Sometimes we have older, unhealthy males or females, and so we have to deal with all of their ailments. So we come in through here probably once a week, clean it up, and then it goes on. As you can see, you could tell there's been layers and layers of.
Thank you for the information.
No problem, sir.
I think this is a good case for why we separate the city services from.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris. Sir. I'm getting ready to start shuttling them down. If you don't mind just hanging out. We're going to come down this way, and this is what we also want to point out to you.
Is this a two-way mirror?
Yes. That's actually our sergeant's office, but if we have a lot going on, he can open the blinds and see what's going on. But this is, how do we get, you ask, how do we get all these inmates in the building? We get them through one elevator, because we can't bring them in to where the public's coming to do record searches or go visit the mayor, city manager. So we try to secure them. Plus, we don't want them coming in contact with any of their victims or anything like that. So we bring them through here, and this is one elevator. I'm not going to be able to fit everybody on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run you down. If I could get a maintenance guy to come with me. Is there a maintenance guy out there?
There, sir.
If I get one of the deputies to come with me, what I'm going to do is put you in there. We'll take you down, and then we will. Then I'm going to hold you down in the holding area down there. I'm going to go back up and down and move you all up and down.
That's a lot, to say the least.
Once you get in the elevator and you realize when I'm transporting, or when these young men right here are transporting multiple individuals, it gets real tight. And not to mention that this is also the judges that, or the elevators the judges use to go to their offices. So if y'all would go ahead and step inside, if we could pack it as full as we can.
Over here too?
Yep.
Wow.
Need to get in the cell.
Take a picture of this.
All right, I think we got enough. Mike, if I get you to slide, there you go. You gonna run this for me? All right, so keep this in mind. This elevator gets used quite often. We've had judges get stuck in this elevator. We've had inmates and officers get stuck in this elevator, and getting stuck isn't just, hey, we're stuck. Now you got to call the elevator crew. So you can be stuck in here for a couple hours. A judge has been stuck in here for a couple hours, and officers with inmates have been stuck in a couple hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you out here with Corporal Jackson. We've talked before in reference to holes being punched in the building. Before you walk down those stairs, if you look to the right, that's a prime example of how we've just drilled holes in the building to run all these wires and stuff.
But the holes,
Don't back
y'all are
up.
braver than I am. Sometimes I always envision a snake coming out, because we do have snakes in the building.
Oh, really? What kind?
I have no idea. I'm terrified of snakes.
Me
So if I see a
too.
snake, I run.
Do they still have bats in the east wing?
I do not know that answer. I know I have seen snakes in the building.
Yep.
Multiple.
What color were they?
Like I pointed out to these fine citizens. As you can see, and you've heard on the news how we've had to punch holes all throughout the building to kind of run all of our wires and everything. If you look right here, this is a prime example where we've drilled into the existing structure, and now you can actually look, and if you look through this hole, you see what's going on above our ground floor. But this is what we've done throughout the building because it wasn't built with chases or anything else to run. So does anybody have any questions about the fourth floor, how we transport? It's a different experience, wasn't it? Yes. A little different world up there, isn't it? And that's what we do. That's our lives every single day. That's this young man's life every single day. When they bring inmates in, if you think about, like I said, the safety and security, all right, safety and security of the inmate, safety and security of the public, you'll see as we come down these stairs, this is a holding area to get them up to the. And if you think about the challenges we have with the inmates with disabilities, so as you follow me,
A lot of water.
oh, this is a daily occurrence. When it rains, it leaks. So if you come on out, as you can see, the mayor parks here, the city manager parks here, all right? And this is where we have to unload inmates at. If you're coming to get a job, we're unloading murderers and people that are on trial for murderers, and you have to come up through here and you'll see a van or a car parked here as we're getting inmates out. One, that provides serious safety and security risk for the officers, because if I want to come break somebody out, we have no protection, all right? And two, if I want to do harm to another inmate, or if one decides to run, where do we have to keep them from running, if you think about it? It's wide open. If one wants to run, it's wide open. So we have to be on our top security level conscious and making sure we're blocking all avenues right here. But this is our sally port. This is how we deliver. And while we're doing that, judges are coming in. And like I said, judges and inmates take the same elevator. So keep that in mind.
When there's a trial going on, do they inform you, like, if the mayor's gonna leave or the city manager? They're gonna be down here, so there's no crossover with prisoners and city officials?
Like I said, there's 60 to 70, 80, 90. Sometimes we might have 10. But this is our only drop-off point. So it's kind of one of those, we do what we do. We get out, we protect. If they're walking, we're trying to shuttle them in. A lot of times the van or the car will pull up right here because we try not to give them that opportunity we get them in and get them up. You see what I'm saying? So if we were communicating every time we had someone moving in this building, can you imagine what that would do for our job? So, does anybody have any questions about that side of the house? Deputies, do y'all want to add anything?
Just gotta say, when that elevator breaks up frequently, and that elevator does go down, that's our only option. So then we have to shut down the entrance and bring the prisoners to the main entrance. So that's a liability and security risk also.
And like we talked about before, going back to the maintenance side, if you walk outside, that's our generator. And you see how exposed that is. Well, this concludes your tour. I hope that you have been informed. I hope we've been able to answer all questions that you might have had. And we're just thankful that you took time out of your evening to come down and see how we operate. And like you've seen, if I get you to step right here. Well, you know, here's my thing. I'm a public servant. I work with what I'm given, but it's definitely, I'm here to serve you. But I like to open your all's eyes, and if you guys have any recommendations, something that we might not, we're open to anything because you look at what we're dealing with. You've been through it. You've had that firsthand experience, the behind the scenes. You know, I've gone to the Georgia Aquarium multiple times, but I took the behind the scenes tour to see what it takes to feed whale sharks, to take care of penguins, and that opened my eyes. So, like I said, I'm here to serve y'all in the best way I can, but I like to be protected and safe and secure while I'm doing it. I have
Being put on the city website, TV station.
WRBL will have it tonight at 11 on the night watch. And then it'll be posted on WRBL.com.
I will find out later whether they want me to air the entire tour or not. Right now, we're just going to have it as a record. So if you wanted to access a copy of the entire tour, you can do that. I will upload it to our YouTube channel, so I can send you a link to that, so you will have access to it.
Good. They already started the other?
I think want more people to know.
Lieutenant Hicks,
They're there?
thank you for the information. I'm going to think about everything I saw. It's so enlightening. If I think it's